tarot cards are often the first step and basis for a seeker of metaphysical knowledge, like you, to discover your forever path. That could be astrology, numerology, healing arts, or any other spiritual interest you discover along the way. Elaine Ireland is not only a teacher of tarot, she is a mentor who supports you and will be there for you. Visit www.elaineIrelandtarotmaster.com now and discover how Elaine's mentoring, tarot card and psychic readings, tarot card classes, and more help you to grow into the true being you are meant to be. Welcome to Conversations with the Ancients, where you're about to discover a whole different world than the one that, up until now, you've believed you're familiar with. World-renowned metaphysicist, practicing psychic, and tarot teacher Elaine Ireland invites you on a journey where you'll hear voices from the past, interviews with some of the greatest metaphysicians you've never heard of, because in their time, they needed to move with stealth. You'll also meet today's spirit mediums, healers, and others who will show you a side of the paranormal you've never seen before. Be sure you visit our website at conversationswiththeancients.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, hear the words of metaphysicians who blazed the trail. You're not in jail, thanks to them.
Hello, everybody. This is Elaine Ireland. You already know you're on Conversation with the Ancients, and this pretty lady with the sweet smile is Mia, M-I-A, Loweree. What is your last name? Where did your last name come from? What nationality are you part of?
Well, actually, I have Irish, Scot, English, and it's spelled Loweree.
Yeah.
However, from what I understand, what my dad told me was that when our descendants came over on the ship, somehow they mistaked the I for an E, the I before E.
Yeah.
And it became Loweree instead of Lower. I think so.
Yeah, that happened to my stepdad's family too. His last name was Anzavino, but legally they left out an I. So the paperwork had the I, Anzivino, but there should be another I in there. And they left it out. But when they got here and showed their paperwork, then it was legally brought together. But even the military forgot the I. It was weird when he went in the service. I know, it was weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, those folks who were stamping and in a hurry. And I love some of the stories about how people got names that were given to them when they were coming into the country because either the guy they were standing in front of couldn't say it, couldn't spell it. So carpenter, white, black, green, painter, they were names sometimes that were given, which isn't their family name at all.
Yeah.
Dancer, what? Sometimes it was the country they came from. Jeff England.
Yeah.
So I'm always fascinated by last names.
Ironically, that when we get to that point as we talk further on about the records, it's interesting how names come into play.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get there. So
yeah, and that's another reason why I wanted to bring it up, because when we get to the Akashic Records and how she got to the Akashic Records, which was another reason why I asked her about her last name. I'm so sneaky, I know. Sounds like chitter chatter, but there's a reason for me bringing that in there, and that was part of her research. Probably part of the reason she wanted to get into the Akashic Records. For those of you that have joined us, the Akashic Records are a unique tool for metaphysicians to have, and not everybody gets to read the Akashic Records. It's a talent and a tool, but not everybody's allowed to go snooping around in the Akashic Records, no matter how much research they do in hopes of learning how to do it. It's like they get the door slammed in their face. So Mia's one of the chosen ones that gets to go rummaging around in our past and sometimes in our futures. And one of the things I want to bring up later is the talk about time. She mentioned before I hit go, linear time. And there is that talk about what is time all about? Do we really go backwards, forwards? Do we really live all of it at the same time? How can the Akashic Records tell us that? So that's going to be fun. But first, tell us about you. How did you end up in
Yeah.
Texas? Because I know you're not from here.
Right. Well, just so I don't forget, I did want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. And I love it. I love how you created the podcast, vidcast to be geared around collaborating and telling stories and things like that, because I really feel like it's how we get to know each other. And yeah, there's always an opportunity for people to connect and collaborate in ways that they wouldn't typically if they were just trying to do everything on their own or not having that exchange. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're a storyteller. So I find that I'm going to squeal on her now. Um, just in case you with the public didn't read her social media part, she's a published poet with I'm also one of the published poets in the anthology celebrating 25 years of Austin International Poetry Festival, titled When Time and Space Conspire. So she's obviously a writer, and we'll get to that too, but she's a storyteller and she's done improv. So she's quick on her feet, can come up with things quick on her feet. I would not have anything to do with improv. I've gone to shows that have done improv and just always my mouth hangs open at how fast it moves and how the responses the people come in that are performing, and I would just be standing there going, "You said what?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So
amazed how really spiritual improv is. You know, it is another form of connecting and collaborating and letting go of ideas, you know, like you can go into a scene with like, okay, I'm going to be a hairdresser and his name's going to be Paul. And all of a sudden you come on stage and now your improv team member calls you, Jeanette, train conductor, and so it's like life, we get these things thrown at us, unexpectedly. And yeah, and it's about having each other's back rather than, trying to look good or get a laugh. You just start connecting and collaborating. And there's a thing real quick, that we're on the topic of improv. There's a practice we do called convergence. And it reminds me a lot of what Rupert Sheldrake talks about in morphic resonance. It's like we all have such more of an energetic connection than we actually realize. It's like you're thinking about somebody and the phone rings and it's them, right? Or
yeah,
something happens the day before and now it's in your DNA memory. And so you all of a sudden run across somebody and they're talking about it. And then you just engage in that. It's just really amazing what goes on beyond what we can see in the physical. So yeah, I love improv. I never thought in a million years I'd stick with it. It's just being a metaphysical practitioner. It's kind of like, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm kind of like in this world, that isn't separate from everybody else, but it's different, Not a lot of people understand it. And so, I thought, let me go see what's going on in the world. And I love
that's
my improv
interesting.
family.
Joining an improv group really did get you to step away from this, and yet there are so many similarities.
Yeah.
That, yeah, I want to go back to how you got here. How did you get to Texas? What brought you to Texas? What was going on in your life that you landed?
Wow. Okay. Well, back in 2005, my mom passed. That's also part of my story in regards to, getting to the Akashic Records. But she had passed, and my partner and I at the time decided it's time to leave Florida. I was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And so we checked out a couple places in North Carolina and everything because it was kind of close but yet still different. Long story short, we thought, you know what, let's just get an Airstream travel trailer and set out and see where we're going to land. Actually, my partner like looked up bohemian towns, like where would you want to go? And growing up in Florida, I was born in Jacksonville, Florida, which, by the way, is also on the 30th parallel, the same as Austin, Texas. We're on a, longitude, latitude grid,
Mhm.
which is also on the same parallel as the pyramids of Giza and other profound places. So I find that Austin, Texas is such an amazing, energetic place for this metaphysical work. We talked about that before. The community here is so supportive, and it's
Yes.
looked at more of like a
Mhm.
holistic healing, really getting to know yourself on a soul level, rather than, other places. So anyway, so we got the Airstream travel trailer. My partner was very frugal and said, look, if we don't like living in a trailer, we can always, it holds its value and we'll be able to sell it. And off we went, and we landed at Pecan Grove RV Park, which,
I know exactly where that is.
right,
Yeah.
on Barton
I wonder
Springs
if you were
Road.
there when Kramer was living there.
Yeah, and small world, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when we mentioned to other people, like, oh, and we were meeting people, because at the time Austin was, even, more super friendly and pet friendly and so on and so forth. Anyway, and they're like, oh, where are you living at? We're like, Pecan Grove RV Park, and they're like, you got a spot there? So apparently, we landed in a hot spot, and
You did.
yeah. So I lived
Mhm.
there for a while, until I found some land out in Dripping Springs, and yeah, I just completely fell in love with it, and ended up buying this land with some of the money from my mom's passing, and proceeded to study permaculture. I didn't mention I'm also a certified permaculturist. Um,
Now tell people what that is.
well, it's a lot of things. It could be mini microclimate, herb spirals, soil biology, energy efficiency, composting, so on and so forth. Learning your azimuth, the low winter sun and the high winter sun, and it's very instrumental if you're like buying a house or you're wanting to start a garden and you want to know, what's the best placement of that so you can what's the saying? Utilize your natural resources while expending the least amount of energy, which I would say also can be utilized as a worldview. Um, it can be utilized in workplaces and relationships, using your natural resources while expending the least amount of energy. I'm human, so sometimes I still expend a lot more energy in something than I need to, until I surrender. But anyway, yeah, so I could go on about permaculture. There's a Austin Permaculture Guild. There's also other places in Texas that have classes and things like that. And it really is amazing. Yeah, I think too, I was well, yeah, we were all, yeah. So anyway, I was a shaman in another life. And so somehow, just understanding nature and being able to read nature and understand, the stories it's telling. So it became natural that learning the north, south, east, west because of my dyslexia was really hard. Anyway, here I am. So that's the long form version of what's permaculture.
And how you got to Austin. You made your way to Grove Park. That place has always had a reputation. It was in South Austin.
Hmm.
Is it still there, or when they expanded that area, did it fall
It
down the?
is. It is.
Okay.
At one point in time, the surrounding RV parks, unfortunately, went on. They were buying up real estate, and property taxes were getting
Right.
super high. They were cutting down all the ancient pecan trees. Toomey
Which some of
Street.
them did without permission.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's interesting what people do, and how and how we deal with it as human beings so we can live more free and not stay in that resentment zone anyhow. But lo and behold, apparently the owners of Pecan Grove RV Park had the means to stay, and so it's the last of the Mohicans there. It's outrageously expensive. I think the last I checked, it was about 1,400 a month just for a little 30 amp spot, for a little 30 amp trailer. But hey, you know, location, location, location.
Well, it's right next to Barton Springs, and
Yeah.
it's even though it's got a very heavy lot of traffic in front of it, I don't. But it's a special place to be in Austin.
Yes, I'm very
Yeah.
grateful that I got to have some experiences there and also out on the land, you know. So
Where did you find a lot of any Indian energy out on the land
oh yeah. Oh my God.
with your shaman background?
Whew, I even named it 17 Indians. Native Americans, you know, at the same token, yeah, I truly believe that I was a chief there. It's on a migratory zone. There's a giant collapsed cave grotto. It's one of the hidden gems. I can't really mention any names because I've since moved from there. My neighbors, you know, they didn't want to call any attention to it. I was one of
Yeah.
18 landowners. And gratefully, they allowed me to live out there in my travel trailer and implement permaculture and cob building. We had cob building workshops. But anyhow, yeah, I cited it from the spirit realm where I used to be a chief, and I used to kill people to protect it. And then so when I came back, I learned permaculture and welcomed people to the land and would help teach them things about it. And just really honor that land. And yeah, I didn't know I'd get emotional. I miss it very much. I went through a lot of experiences there over a 10-year period. And yeah, it's like a vortex and just such a beautiful, amazing place. I think there's a lot of beautiful, amazing places in Texas. I'm so glad I moved here. I would have never have known because I love the ocean. I grew up around the ocean, swimming and
Florida. Yeah.
surfing. surfing.
See, folks, again, I've been sneaky. Leading up to her work with the Akashic Records, and I firmly believe we are allowed to see the Akashic Records as a mentor, which she is, and a teacher, which she is, and of course, a reader and communication and a sharer of information. I really believe that there are, at least I've witnessed the fact that there are very few people that are allowed to read the records. And some of them not for very long. They're supposed to help just the people they're supposed to help, and then it stops and they go on to something else with that as a backup. Then there are others like Mia that's what she does. And other things are her backup, like the teaching and the mentoring and so forth, and the writing that she does. And she mentioned dyslexia a while ago. And I want you to share your work with how dyslexia got you into Akashic Records was a part of that, and what you learned about yourself because of your search to help yourself and
Okay.
grow.
Um, I do want to say, right, I want to first off, when anything I'm talking about with the Akashic Records, I just want everybody to know that it's all based on my experiences. From what I understand, there's lots of avenues to access the records. I learned through a specific methodology I'll share with y'all later. Um, and I have a, you know, a high honor and regard for everyone and whatever they're doing and how they learned and how they do it. Um, and so when I'm sharing about it, I want everybody to know it's just my experience. And I'm not saying this is how it is or this is how it is.
Now, there's
Uh,
more than one way.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I want to put that out there. Um, Also, too, I don't want to like this just came to mind. If any of the listeners want to just maybe get a pencil and a paper or a pen and a paper and any question, anything we don't cover that you might want to ask about the records, either, you know, call into Elaine for future podcasts, or if you want to get a hold of me, because there's only so much time to cover so much. There's so much about it. Um, and so, yeah, and so before I respond to your question, I wanted to say, in my experience with understanding about accessing the records, and we'll probably get to this, to touch on this again later. My teacher, this is what I learned, told me that it's all of our birthrights to be able to access our records. And so at the time I was just, interested in learning how to access my own and potentially maybe for others later, and not teaching it. However, uh, I think maybe what you're saying is maybe there's a certain intention or regard for how one honors working within the records. And maybe that's why some, like you heard from maybe someone else, that people are blocked, or
Hmm.
are not allowed to. Um,
Right.
and then
Or on
again,
a limited basis, which I always thought
right,
was interesting. Yeah.
right. So again, the metaphysical realm, there is no good, bad, right, or wrong, and I'm not any greater or less than anybody listening, or any of us practitioners with whatever we do. However, it's a matter of practice and really believing in what you're doing, and it coming from your heart. Um, so maybe other people that have been not allowed to or whatever were maybe potentially utilizing that for some, or trying to utilize that in a way that isn't congruent with the unconditional love and pure energy field of the Akash. So
Hmm.
that's what I'm thinking. So what now I can focus. The last
Now
question.
you can focus.
Yeah, no.
um, we
Oh,
found out how you, what? Go.
I think you were asking me about the dyslexia and its relativity to the Akashic records.
Right. How did that, you were searching for answers to your dyslexia
Hmm.
via the records, and then you found out how fascinating it was, so you stayed with the records to help other to learn more. Is that how that happened?
Well,
How got
actually,
what got you to the
um,
Akashic?
well, that's part of the story. I at some point it did come as a question from me to the masters, teachers, and loved ones. Um, how is this how is this of benefit in my journey in this life and this work? And because things like technical stuff, organizing things, reading something and preparing for something, like I quit school when I was 16 and took my GED for several reasons. But I'm just not your typical learning, like the person that learns through erudition or being told or read or study something and then later teach others. I'm more of a kinesthetic learner, or someone who learns through experiences. And I think we can merge the two. We can merge that. Like if you look up the definition for metaphysical, it's of or relating to a reality beyond what is perceptible to the senses, or the transcendent, which is what is that? That is beyond your typical limits, you know. And so for me, if I think of it this way, maybe if I wasn't dyslexic, or I'll just go back to what I was shown. I was shown that this is an attribute to this work that I've agreed to do, um, because it's not something that can be figured out. It's something that can be believed in, a reality that can be believed in, and through that belief have experiences. So, um, it's not the specific reason I got into the Akashic records. Now that, do you want me to tell that story?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so I mentioned I moved out when I was 16, and yeah, my mom and we really didn't get along. I came from a very dysfunctional family, to say the least. And so even though I got the best of both of them and the worst of both of them, um, one of the things when I moved out, well, it was actually, yeah, it was a difficult time. Basically, in the 80s, my mom threw all my stuff out on the front lawn, and let's just say the feeling was mutual. Um, One of the things I later found out, though, through still communicating with her and trying to, get that approval, and um, was that we both loved going to psychic fairs and metaphysical stuff. Um, and so we would do that, I guess, in her hope to relate to me as her daughter and me to relate to her as my mom. And then at some point, and we were still pretty distant. And so apparently, unbeknownst to me, she was seeing this woman, Laura Lynn Bunn, who later became my teacher, for Reiki. Like my mom had lots of physical ailments, which I believe were related to, emotional things. We can talk about that later. Um, and so Laura Lynn Bunn, was at the time, well, she still is, she's just retired, ordained minister, energy healer. She used to work on young babies at the hospital that were too young to take medicines. And one of the other things that she did was access the Akashic records. And so one day my mom asked me, "Hey, do you want to have your Akashic records read?" And I was like, "What is that?" I was like, "Akasha what? What is that?" Because I knew what psychic readings were, and I don't know much about tarot, but I knew there were tarot cards and runes and things, all of the fairs and events that we used to like to go to. Um, that I had never heard of that. And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll give it a whirl." And I was like, "Well, what do I need to know?" And she goes, "I don't know. I think you just need questions or something." And so I put together some questions and I went to my appointment with Laura Lynn Bunn. And I never felt so loved, so understood, so, um, yeah, unconditionally loved. I mean, like, here's this woman who doesn't know me. I mean, maybe my mom talked about me while she was lying on her table getting her Reiki treatments. But Laura Lynn wasn't someone that was at psychic fairs or, anything. She was able to communicate with these energies that knew me so well. And my first question was so related to all my other questions. And it didn't look that way on paper. Um, And the response from the masters and teachers, or from her at the time, because remember, I'm new, I was like, what's going, um, wasn't a direct answer to my question. It was something about me that I never saw before, but it was so related to my question and the understanding of an outcome that was available to me as I moved forward with that new understanding of myself. Um, the question was, why can't I, why can't I charge enough for, because I did all kinds of jobs since I moved out. I was cleaned pools, and then I eventually opened up my own pool business, done right pool service. I'm a Scorpio, so I'm like a perfectionist. And one of my clients raised my fee because I wasn't raising it, and I was like, what? And then I became a faux finish artist. I must have been an artist in another lifetime because I never studied it, but I love to paint and create. And I started out professionally and then eventually got into sponging and brushing. And I would get through doing this entire foyer of a condominium, and then I'd hand the bill to the lady to go up to give to the person, and she'd go, "Wait a minute, you can charge like 5 times this. What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm fine. I'm happy. I can pay my work and my help." And anyway, and so, uh, yeah, the response was very profound, and it helped me shift in a lot of ways. And so I was hooked. I was like, I have to learn how to do this. I asked Laura Lynn, I want to learn how to do this. She says, "Oh, well, I teach classes, start with the level 1." And so I signed up for a class, and over a 2-day period with, I think it was about maybe 6 to 8 hours per day, we proceeded to learn about you know, what are the records? Who are the masters and teachers? And then we, as all of us newbies, were practicing, opening and closing each other's records, and experiencing what that was like. And it completely blew my mind. So I continued on. I always wanted to help the world, save the animals, save the planet, you know, and it's like, um, and so I'm like, I want to do this for other people. And so that I went and took level 2 classes, and then off I went.
How I'm going to interrupt here because I know somebody out there is wondering, just like other readers, not meaning to compare tools here, but you put down the tarot cards, you do an astrology chart, you do numerology, you have Akashic records. Now, for me, if I get the same information more than once, I at fairs, I'll tell people, if you have the time and the energy and the budget, go ask 3 people, 2 more if they're sitting at my table, exactly the same questions. Don't change it, not one word. And if you get the same answer, even if not the same words, but the same content, that's what you need to listen to. Please do. So, how do you know what you're getting is real, valid, compared to, oh, I'm imagining that, or that can't be true? Why would that be true? Which is not, as readers, our rights to question what we get. But how do you know there's a truth to it and you share it with your client with great confidence that it's not just your imagination?
Okay, so it's interesting because somehow I feel like what I feel like when I'm facilitating a reading, I'm getting, you know, it's all like there's so much around this one question. So I'll answer it this way. In regards to the records, I'm utilizing a specific prayer that I read a certain way, the person's first and last legal name and their permission. And I'm accessing a field of energy where these energies that have mastered the ability to look into each and all of everyone and everything's past, present, and potential future in this quantum energy field that's very malleable. It's not finite. It's constantly expanding and growing. And so when I access the records on someone's behalf, I've already made that commitment, and I think I put this somewhere on my website. Is my commitment to you is to remove myself so I can accurately receive the information, and I'm not questioning it or, you know, also too, being someone that is also very highly intuitive and facilitates readings. I'll be in an Akashic record consultation and I will ask, is that you or me? You know, or right? Because if someone's agreed to have me facilitate their Akashic records, that's what I'd like to do. And so I will make that commitment right from the get-go. And so I don't question it. Now, that's now. And sometimes, and I'm a human and I'm growing, expanding, and learning, and everybody I facilitate for, I call like it's like an exchange. I'm learning so much. I don't remember their specific information unless I'm trying to explain something to somebody, which may happen during this podcast where I'm explaining an example of what the records can do or are for. I don't remember people's stuff, right? And so I just trust it. And what happens is it becomes a part of my DNA memory and my consciousness as I move forward. And lo and behold, it somehow benefits someone else later. So to answer your question, I don't question it. I make that commitment right from the start, and I know what it feels like. But this brings me back. Oh my gosh, Elaine, this brings me back to when my very first spiritual life fair. You were there, and
Across the
I
aisle.
yeah, like that's what we just talked about was how I got into the Akashic Records and learned, and then I just started doing that. Well, I hadn't done readings or facilitated readings for people like at events until 2016. I took my first Akashic Record class in 2004. Bunch of stuff happened in my life that needed unfolding and unraveling and discarding and, repatterning. And then in 2012 is when I took my higher level classes, or level 2 classes, and then began facilitating for other people. And then in 2016, I had an experience at Nature's Treasures with my mom's jewelry. Because when my mom passed, I found all kinds of stuff like this moonstone and I don't know, see it like the moonstone,
Higher,
yeah,
higher,
yeah,
higher. Hold it up higher.
things like
Okay.
this.
Ooh, pretty.
Yeah. And so I was like, what is all this stuff? And I just was like, I sent an email to Nature's Treasures, can someone help me? And Michael agreed. And
Michael is the manager, folks, of Nature's Treasures in Austin, Texas.
yeah. Uh, I adore Michael. I hope he doesn't mind me telling this story, but it's how I got started at events doing expanding the metaphysical work, facilitating readings, and other abilities that I utilize. And so anyway, he spent quite some time with me, and I was like, I asked guidance, how can I repay this guy? And so they gave me some information about him. And when I lived out on the land, I used to collect rocks because I'm a rock hound, I used to collect rocks and crystals and mookaite and things off the land, especially after a rain, they'd really pop. And I'd throw them on the floorboard of my car. And so I'm on my way to have Michael like tell me what this jewelry is. I had like a big box of like all kinds of, like, back in the day in the 70s, women wore those big long necklaces.
Oh, yeah.
They had like coral and onyx and all this stuff I didn't even know what it was, which again, I had no idea my mom was as metaphysical. Long story short, I got some information about him. They told me to grab 3 stones off the floorboard, and I knew I would know which ones they were. So I did, and I went in and I had them in my pocket. And afterward, I said, "Are you, I can't thank you enough. And are you open to some information? I'm energy sensitive." And because I learned through a mentor of mine, there's a code of ethics. You just don't start spewing information
Yeah.
at people. You ask
Right.
them if they haven't already asked you. And he goes, "Yeah, what are you kidding? This is a metaphysical store, of course." I didn't know they had a practitioner program. I didn't know, it was just like, okay. So I pulled the rocks out of my pocket and I started giving him the information. And I don't remember what it was. But by the time I was done, he stopped me in the middle and he said, "I have to tell you something afterward, okay?" And I'm like, "Okay." And afterward, and he goes, "Do you have a website?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Do you have any?" I said, "I have some business cards. I access the records." And he goes, "Well, I'm going to introduce you to Marilyn." And so he introduced me to Marilyn, and that's how I got started
Mhm.
in the metaphysical fairs. And back to the first fair, my very first fair, you were there and you were sitting across from me. And I remember I was so nervous. I had and I didn't know I could access the records at events because I was so used to doing it in private and settings and, everything, the special prayer and everything. So your energy just so helped me there. And that, back to how do I know if it's real or Memorex, right?
Yeah.
That, for those of you who are young, that was an old commercial.
Look it up.
Real or is it Memorex?
Yeah.
So I was new at doing this, right? This practice. This is why they call us practitioners, right? We're practicing. And I think everyone
Right.
is a practitioner because we're practicing. We're growing and expanding and we're learning. That I remember, like, I had my little angel card. Actually, this deck, I had a little angel card deck, right? And I was like, Akashic Records also available, sign here. So I had 3 people that day. And one of the people that came to the table she goes, I just come to psychic fairs, and I'm like, well, surely you have questions, because I was used to having questions,
Yeah.
the Akashic Records. And she was like, oh no, I just go to fairs and I go around to people and I just ask them, like, so clearly she was like someone who wanted to test the waters, maybe kind of from a skeptic. And so on my first day, I get her, right? And I'm like, "Ah!" So I had to dive in. Um, and so there I was. And so I just started describing what was coming forward. And then she started to cry, and which meant I knew guidance was telling her, it was showing her everything that was going on for her right now, and some of the things that would have benefited her in like being able to move through that. And it kept showing something. Remember you said something, when things show up 3 times,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes like the reading's going on, and so it's like I can't interrupt it. It's like holding the space, the space where everything's happening at once in the reading until it's time. And so this young man kept looming about, like they were like saying, talk about him, talk about him. And I didn't, because again, I was new at this, and the Mia that is intuitive and is honored to be here and doing this work was there, but so was the Mia that was questioning it. What if, and I thought this woman was gay. And so
Mhm.
like the Mia who didn't like wasn't staunchly removing herself yet. And I thought she was gay, and I was like, oh, that can't be, because it was showing up in a like a more of an intimate thing, this guy.
Yeah.
And then we were getting ready to close the reading, and she goes, so there's this guy, and I was like, you know, and so I remember that, right? I was like, oh, and I didn't say to her, there was this guy who showed up because I was still worried about what people think, and just trying to hold my composure. So anyway, it just takes practice, and there's a feeling when it comes to readings or guided mentorship, which is like counseling. It's like people say, oh, I'm going to my therapist, I'm going to talk to my therapist about this. Only I don't have the restrictions, it's like um being practiced and working with someone at the same time. um I'm being guided by their guidance, so I know it's not giving advice, right? Which a good therapist wouldn't do. It's not, it's just working with that individual on this level of beyond the physical, but in the physical, which is
Right.
relative to the Akashic Records. But so again, back to the question of how do you know? It's a little different depending on what platform, or what, I don't even know the right word. But whatever I'm doing with the Akashic Records, it's specifically speaking with them. Now, if they want to bring in someone else, um, i.e. a loved one, or maybe I've had a loved one come in on behalf of someone that was them in another life, showing them something that they already moved through, to assist them with what they chose to come here and learn, so they could evolve out of that and move forward. Um, so it's interesting, I just open myself up to it, and I'm making that commitment from the moment I sit down with a client, and until, the appointment is over, whether it's a call or an in-person. Um, yeah. Does that help answer the?
For me, it does.
Mhm.
But I want to talk about past, present, and future because you just talked about a lot about learning this lifetime compared to what we did in the past and being another person. A person shows up in the past. And yet, even in the metaphysical community, we have those that are adamant about all lives are lived at the same time. That's why you may have deja vu when you go to Paris and you know exactly where you need to be, or you look at a shop and you go, that used to be a pig shop. Well, it's a bookstore now. You know, you have these memories, and sometimes they pop so quickly you don't stop and go in and say, how long has this been a bookstore? It used, you know,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. I went
Yeah.
to an optometrist recently in the city, and it's in one of those old brick buildings, and you walk in and you're like, this is TV. I love
We
that.
had one years ago in, just as an example, public, bear with me here. During the harmonic conversions, I went to Palenque with a group of, some of them were my students, some were clients, and then we had other people we knew along the way that we didn't even know were going to be on the plane with us or anything. So with quite a few people we knew, and kind of hung out together, kind of didn't, not every day. We were there almost 5 days fully. And we spent a lot of time with the pyramids, on the pyramids. And the day
Mm,
of the harmonic, we were there from, purposely from before sunup till sunup the next day.
wow.
A lot of hours, right? A lot of ritual going on. It was really an amazing time.
Oh my
Well,
God.
during that time, 2 or 3 of the people that was supposed to go with us had had a delay. So they were delayed in getting there. And we were excited when they finally arrived and we knew they were safe. One of that group knew exactly where the pyramid part, where part of the pyramid was that she had wanted to see. Well, the main one is where Palenque was supposed to have been buried, way down. There was a flautist, and his music was just coming out of the pyramid.
Mm,
It was wonderful. And I saw her stop and listen. And then she took, now we're up watching, she's down. So to her left, she took a left around to the side. The little group that was with her said she just ran. Now, this is into a room. I don't know how to describe it. The pyramid is over here to her right, but they're going down a kind of like a walkway where you could go to the back of the pyramid and get into the pyramid. But you couldn't go, you had to go up the stairs. You couldn't even see it. But she knew exactly where the higher ups, higher arc, whatever you say it, they would carry the kings, queens, whatever, to a certain place on the wall, and that's where they were bathed. So that area was constantly wet,
yeah.
basically.
Also,
And
too, there was lots of they were built over like limestone aquifers, and it would generate electricity.
right. So she tells them, be careful when we go in. Now, the guards, if the guards had caught her, they would have been nice. They were always polite to us. They were very kind. We would rather you did not go there. If we didn't have, a lot of us carried candles, and they carried aluminum foil with them, and popsicle sticks. They would want to make sure that wax did not drop unnecessarily and damage anything. So she told her little group, she said, let's go, let's go. And she would stop and say, watch where you put your feet. We've got a hole up here. We've got, it may still be jagged over there. She knew that. She knew that area. And she said, now we're only going to be able to go so far because humans have put blocks in the way. And sure enough, the group said you could tell that these were not like rocks and bricks or whatever
Mhm.
the cuts that the pyramid was. So it had been blocked. I would love to have known where that actually ended up. Did it end up in a place where people had their bedrooms? Was it a place where something else, some other kind of room was created? But
Yeah.
she knew before she never ever entered it exactly where to stop, where to be careful of. Now, how did she know that?
Right.
We're
Yeah.
talking Palenque.
There's
So
so much.
obviously she lived in that area,
Yeah.
or maybe even in the pyramid.
Well, from an Akashic sense or from an Akashic view, there's so much in our DNA memory. When I facilitate presentations, I, excuse me, I talk about Rupert Sheldrake, who talks about our DNA memory.
Right.
And it's things that are in our consciousness. We're physical energy that at some point has chosen life. He doesn't say it this way. I'm referring to like the Akashic Records. Well, I'll just rewind for a second. He talks about the DNA memory from like nature, and I mean I haven't listened to him in a long time. He was just one of the references our teacher told us about when we were taking our classes. So it's been a long time. But I do refer people to him to understand more about this, their DNA memory, and why are they doing this, or why do they understand how to paint or do things that they never studied? It's in the DNA memory. It's kind of like an oak tree knows it's an oak tree, right? It's knows when a lightning hits the branch and the branch falls and it turns into fire and then the turns into coal, and how it's going to inoculate the soil and it helps the roots for the tree, and it understands all this stuff. And so people remember, and yeah, it is. It's like deja vu. It's like I've been here before. And sometimes you know, it can be of feeling like a great benefit, right? And show me more about this life so I can understand why I'm interested in this, that, or the other thing. It can also sometimes we remember things from other lives that we haven't moved out of the pattern of. So it can be holding us back through a certain belief system that we're still stuck in from another time, which, who knows, at that time it could have been of great benefit, you know? Maybe this is just coming to mind as an example. Maybe someone was very religious in another life, and they stayed on the good and narrow.
Yeah.
They were terrified that if they were bad, that they would go to hell, right? And so maybe that kept them out of trouble for them or others in their life. But at this point, it could be holding them back from truly living their life and just being like my neighbor.
Living this life.
Right, the
Yeah.
present life, and just like, prevent them from like what my neighbors in the hill country used to say, "We're just good for nothing." Just truly being able to operate from the heart. Um, I so feel inspired to share this story that's coming to mind. I had a woman come to me, and again, I don't like typically don't remember people's specific stuff. However, this is coming forward as an example of what we're talking about. She came to an event, and she was with this young man who looked like he was probably maybe in his 30s, and it was her son. And he was very like he couldn't barely look you in the eye. He wasn't communicative. Clearly, he had um, some pretty severe disabilities in different ways that kept him from communicating and being able to get around and be like human beings without those specific difficulties. And she sat down, and he sat down next to her, and he was being very quiet, and he was kind of like this, and we were talking, and I don't remember what she was asking or what we were talking about, but I'm remembering it because it was one of the most profound examples of things that happen in other lives that by accessing the records and understanding them in relativity to our life today, and it being an asset to help us move forward more freely. Unbelievable. They showed, and I don't think she asked, like, why did I choose having a son with these disabilities or what? I don't remember what
Or
she,
why was I chosen as the mother of? Yeah.
right.
Right.
However, what I was shown was in this young man's previous life, he was wealthy and good looking, and he had a physique that was like, an Adonis. And people, he was also, I don't want to say, like, he wasn't like narcissistic or arrogant. He just, most everybody in his life adored him for his looks and his money and his physique and, you know, how he was. And, you know, in fact, now it's even coming for, this is weird. He was also very giving too in that life. Um, wow. God, this work is so surprising. Um, I'll tell you in a minute why I'm like, oh my God, and why about that just coming in, right? Him being giving was that he literally chose this life to, and the mother, right, chose having a son like this, and if it comes to me, I'll tell you why on her end, right? Carolyn Miss talks about this sacred contracts, right? When we're energy
Right.
consciousness in the ether or this quantum field of energy that's very malleable, that does, like you said earlier, everything's happening at once. It has the past, the present, the potentiality of the unfoldment of all events and all things of the
Yeah,
future.
it's interesting that you would bring that up because not yes, I've always wondered which side of the coin Akashic records sit, and that, and for some reason I'm thinking not every client so
Yeah.
is
Well,
doing that at the same time.
yeah, hold that thought.
Okay.
Um, so, um, so what was being shown to this mother, and I call this when time and space conspire. It's like time's moving toward us and we're moving towards time, and you know, what appears is what we're ready for. um and I trust that in my own journey. But this was so profound, it blew my mind. He chose to come here, and this was the way that he was going. He did not have the physical ability. uh he could not be giving to others, um which in some way could be wrapped up for somebody and getting something in return, or being loved because of what they're giving you or whatever. There's so much. Um, but for him, that mother loved him unconditionally, like unconditionally, in a way he never ever got to feel in any of his other lives yet. And it took coming into this life and being someone who could barely communicate and barely like dress himself. And he and it was clear. And I think she even said he doesn't, you know, he's okay. He's just going to sit here. And I knew that, right? But she was, you know, used to other people, you know, normies. And when I was explaining this to her, he looked up at me like this. And guidance was showing, the masters, teachers, and loved ones was showing that he is at a time and a place in his life where he wants to do more things on his own, and that he is ready. And the mother had chose this life because in other lives she never felt what it was like to fully give unconditionally. She was always like, you know, uh what's in it for me, and what can I, you know. And it's not like, oh, payback karma, you're going to have this son, right, where you have to dedicate your whole life. Not at all. It was her. And when she was receiving this information, I could see her like realize, right, because giving unconditionally is so profound. I mean, we're human beings. It's like you know, the human nature isn't always like, it may desire to be unconditionally loving, But sometimes we're manipulative, and we make choices out of fear, and we make decisions, and we interact in relationships and dynamics of relationships, again, from fear, or because we don't think we can do that. You know, like someone having another life as maybe a medicine man, and who saved many, many lives in the town, and then the one time the family comes with their son, you know, the prized son, their only son, who's so sick, and of course the medicine man can heal him, but the son dies, and the medicine man is as a human being, yes, he has abilities, and yes, he has saved many people, but now he's like, oh my God, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
And then comes back in this life, and this person's wondering, why am I so drawn to plant medicine, and why do I, but I'm not doing that, you know, or maybe they want to teach, you know, yoga or do something else, but they're still basing their happiness in that healing position of helping people on the outcome of their clients, when that's the one thing they came here to learn, to let go of that, so they can utilize their abilities freely from their heart, and not, you know, release the responsibility of that, like the medicine man like let go of in that life, you know. I mean, I have example of people coming forward asking questions about one thing, and the masters and teachers and loved ones not responding as an answer, like question answer, though bringing something forward, whether it's something that they're showing as a potentiality of the future for this person, if they choose, that will help in that, whether it's communication with someone, or they're showing something from the past, or a loved one comes forward who was someone in the past that their soul was working in. I mean, there's so many attributes, and I don't know if you see it in my eyes, but it's like a buzz. I just love, love, love
We
this
still,
work.
the thing about time, which is an endless conversation, but when it comes to the Akashic Records, people look at the Akashic Records almost like a Bible for life. So, whether it's in this
And
solar
the, and
system
the, and the
or
Bible
another
is
solar system.
referred to as the book of life.
Right. So if we're going to talk about yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and and we think that every soul leads that kind of path, we continue as we look at Akashic Records or ask the Akashic Records. There's also that comment, "What if?" We could have you alone could write multiple books about that. What if? But because you've seen so many examples with the Akashic Records, our free will decisions, are the Akashic Records absolutely set in stone, or do they take care of the what if question? And we'll throw this out there too. Going to say it again because I think I can say it. I'm excited. I think I can say it better now. We've
Okay.
got a
Writing
soul who
things
is
down.
doing five lives at one time, or 100 lives at one time in different time frames, or they've chosen to do it from this day forward. And for some reason in the Akashic Records, there's no record of their past lives. So is this their first life? There's always a first, always a first. Or are they sitting over here saying, okay, I'm going to live to be 97 this lifetime. Next lifetime, I'll just come in, say hello to the parents, and leave. There's a reason for that. We always know that. The next lifetime, I'm going to be this Adonis. And then the next lifetime, I'll face a life with challenges. Okay, got one train of thought. Stay with me here on that one train
I'm
of thought.
trying because there's a lot in there, but I'm holding the space somehow. Maybe it's just,
And that
yeah.
same soul says, okay, I need to live in the 1800s. So while my other part of my soul's going on over here, I'm going to go experience the 1800s. Just this one, just that one lifetime, just it. and they get over there and they're doing that, and they can feel that they're over there living to be 90 something years old in a setting they don't understand. Are they crazy in their culture?
I'm
And that
sorry.
90-year-old man is thinking, oh, I love the 1800s. I cannot learn enough about the 1800s. I want to teach history. How are they connected? Are they on the same timelines? Or is that just parts of the soul that have separated and are having different experiences? How does the Akashic Records address those? If we believe that, if
Okay.
we do that, how would the
Right.
Akashic Records explain that to a person? Am I crazy? They could look at you and say, am I crazy? Tell me, am I crazy? Am I going to end up in an institution?
Okay. So there's a lot there. I'm going to ask guidance.
Public, stay with us.
I didn't officially access your records or all of the records of the listeners. It's a whole nother thing. It is possible to access more than one person's records at once. We just come from it from a group intention, and we can talk about that later if we have time. So there's a lot going on. Again, belief systems. What are you believing? Many people use different terminology for things that they feel is what's going on. When you were talking, it made me think of what did someone say one time? Edgar Casey said we invented time to keep everything from happening at once.
Oh, I didn't know that. I love that phrase.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
like, and it's kind of like, I don't know if you experience this when you're facilitating a reading. Um, um, and I mentioned this earlier, things are happening at once, like when I'm facilitating a reading, and my job is to bring it all together into the present in the language of the person I'm working with. And so that's what's so beneficial about the conversation in an Akashic record consultation. It's not me reading you, it's a conversation that's going on. And so, in regards to the records, past, present, potentiality of the future, I want to invite everyone to think of it as, even though we're using the words past, present, and I'll always say potentiality of the future. So to answer one of your questions, my experience is nothing's written in stone. In fact, we are constantly expanding and evolving and learning and repatterning and realizing, and our perceptions are shifting of things. So one of the main benefits of accessing the records, which is, again, everything happening at once in this very malleable energy field on a quantum level. Now, I know people probably hear that word a lot, quantum, 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 and just think of it as like all of the listeners are in our records, and now we're in theirs, and you're in mine, I'm in yours, and so even readings are in the records, and because some people ask, what's the difference between a reading and an Akashic record, and we'll get to that in a minute, but I want to finish answering your multifaceted question. I don't believe that things are written in stone because I've actually experienced unpatterning things. And
So are
example,
you unpatterning for today, for this life, or unpattern, making a different pattern for the future? No, really, because
no,
there's so
I'm
many.
doing this because I did that because we are in such morphic resonance right now. Um, I was about to say, like, and I was getting a flashback of you talking about, okay, in this life, I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to dip in over here into the 1800s when I hear. And I started laughing because I was thinking of an improv scene called Parallel Universes, where you actually, you do that, like, throw me another beer, Mike, would ya? And then you're over here. Yes, Sally, when is my order up? Right, because you're like different parallels, different uses, just in a comedian way. But I don't like to say but, everything is happening at once. And think of it as I just put up my solar planets. You see, they're kind of moving. They're moving because the light hits them.
I was going to bring that up for the public and say, folks, you're not going crazy. Those really
Right.
are moving.
Yeah, I'm very partial to Jupiter and Venus, and so those are. But so again, we're evolving and expanding, and our free will choice. I write poetry, like we talked about earlier on my website, and divinely inspired poems and quotes. There's a poem that talks about we're evolving, right? Evolving, and then free will choice, snap, everything changes. So when I chose to come here as Mia, often people ask, what is my purpose? Right?
Yeah.
And one day I asked the masters and teachers, what's this purpose thing? And me, right? It's, because I want to be able to answer that. And they're like, just Mia, just remove yourself. We'll do our job. I'm like, okay. Um, it's like we're choosing to come here to have an experience. And we choose the people that may be catalysts in those experiences or places or time frames, or like we talked about when time and space conspire. And when they show up as opportunities. Am I willing to move through that challenge or that fear of communicating with someone? Maybe this is the life I came to care for my mom in the 2 weeks that she was in the hospital
Yeah.
in ways that I couldn't. Um, you know, I mean, it's so expansive. So again, free will choice, we can be moving in the direction of what we chose, and our souls, as we evolve, are choosing that life to have these experiences with those people. And sometimes we don't even know that we're catalysts for other people when we're standing in our truth, or we're moving through a fear, or we're going for something we typically wouldn't have because we thought we couldn't do it, based on something that happened in another lifetime, until we
Yeah.
realize in this lifetime we do it. Like one of the things I came here to experience was living a life where I wasn't basing it on what other people thought of me. In other lives, I've been killed, burned at the stake, shunned from towns, all from being able to utilize my ability, and all from the
Right.
intention. I'm here, to tell you the storm's coming and we need to get ready, it's like a fisherman town. And then the storm comes and they're like, a religious person is like, you're the devil, you couldn't have known that. How do you know that? And then, right. And so I come here in this life and it shows up in other ways, like, yeah, I want people to like me and all that other stuff, that fact-based world surface stuff, we all go through, but it's so much deeper and it's linked to that. And what job do I choose to say yes to? One of the most highly skepticized jobs.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
is it set in stone? I don't believe so. Are we pioneering our next life right now? Absolutely. Does it matter if we don't grab an opportunity and shift and change and take it? Like I've accessed my records and asked the master's teachers about something, and they clearly say, hey, this is what we can show you about this. And then they leave it to me, my free will choice, right? Which is separate from self-will. Self-will is like controlling, right? Or a religious person may talk about God's will.
Mm-hmm.
The Akashic Records, which is huge because I think it's an ancient Sanskrit, and in the Bible is the book of life, because all religions are attracted to it for the purity, the unconditional love, the truth, where different religions haven't come in, the human beings that are like, you have to be good or you go to hell, or a
Yeah.
Buddhist will be like, oh, we must remain small, we must not desire, and in the meantime, there's all this awesome sauce about all these religions, you know, and it's these belief systems, and you talked about that. It's all about what am
Mhm.
I believing in and the if.
The
And
what ifs.
right,
Mhm.
if you know, I believe, no pun intended, but you know, believing is seeing. Believing is the insight where the insight can come. I don't have to see it to believe it because sometimes the most real things aren't something you can see. It can only be understood through the experience. You can't read it and study. You know, you mentioned something about background, and I just want to make sure if I answered all your questions. Yes, everything's happening at once. In the field of the Akash are all of the lifetimes.
Happening at one time.
Right. And when I learned in class,
So that says a lot about time,
oh,
the discussion of time.
I'm hearing
So,
Cher. If I could
and I'm
turn.
sure yeah, CHER. Yeah, if we could turn back time. But I don't know that the answer I don't know that there is a clear answer to time being totally linear or it all happening at one time. All lives happening at one time. And that's why we feel these similarities. And you have probably heard stories over the years about people disappearing for months at a time, to the point where police will go looking for them, and then 4 or 5 months later they'll show up. Oh, they've been abducted by whatever. No, they they've gone someplace else, another lifetime. They've gone forward, they've gone backwards, they've and to them it may have been just a dream, but they've been gone for weeks, months, years in some cases. And then all of a sudden they show up, kind of like Rumpelstiltskin. They just wake up, whatever. I've had several clients talk to me over the years about either their experience with that or people that they knew. And sometimes it's in a like a small village, and people know that so and so won't come into town for 3 or 4 months, so they don't miss him. But when he shows up again or she shows up again, she's very different because
Mm,
he hasn't let go of where he's been. He'll be kind of in a daze. So the where he's been, we'll say, "What happened to John? Haven't seen
mm.
John in a while." And bouncing back and forth. Now, I don't know how to explain that. To me, that's time hopping. So
Yeah.
so the Akashic records have got to have, I would think, because the Akashic records are very, very clear in their messages and their recordings, could they tell us where John and Mary Lou went? Yeah, we went back to Ireland for a while, lived in that village, and then we missed our people over here. And how much memory do they have of that? The Akashic records fascinate me because I don't know enough about them.
Right.
That
Well,
makes sense. I was one of those
absolutely.
people that the door got shut.
Absolutely. I don't, yeah, you know, that may just be an idea that, you know, doing this podcast and speaking to people and everything may shift, you know. I feel like everything's in the records. I feel like sometimes the human being may you know, living in the finite perception of things, you know, linear time, all the things that us humans rely on in the world of utilizing our senses, right? And you know, because we are human and those things are very necessary. And sometimes even as practitioners, I'll speak for myself, uh, sometimes there's times where it's hard to merge the two, you know, and live my human life as Mia. Even though I do this work, you think, oh, well, you can just live free and unfold effortlessly, and you know, but no, you know, it's like, my God, I'm a Scorpio. Like the phoenix keeps crashing and burning and rising. Uh, so, so it just may be an old. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say we're going to be leaving a lot of loose ends for our public this evening or today. It's sunshiny out. So if I may
And your
suggest to
time is
you,
flying. I don't even know how long we've been
an hour
talking.
and a half. Oh yeah. Yeah, public, Mia and I could go on probably for another 5 hours talking about this.
Oh,
But may I suggest to you, because I know when we disconnect that you're going to be thinking about the conversation, you're going to feel the loose ends, you're going to want to talk about it again. So if I may suggest, since you have a website, as you think about these things, do a recording like this and post it. Elaine and
well,
I were talking about, or I thought about this, and I would like to further explain this. Just put it up, even if it's just a 5 minute something. So the public, you've invited them to ask you questions about this podcast. And I really encourage you to do that, public, because I know I'm being kind of sneaky here. I'm purposely leaving some loose ends, but also I've got loose ends that I will probably talk to Mia about at another
oh
time.
yeah. Or I'd
But I
love to
think,
come back if you'd have.
yeah, but make a list of things that you maybe would just like directly to put on your podcast, I mean your website, and say, we were talking about this the other day and I had this thought, da 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 da.
Mhm.
And
Well,
let the public know. We
yeah,
didn't really finish it, but this is what I'm thinking, kind of
I'm
thing.
yeah. Well, as always, you're spot on. You are reading into something I've had my sights on for a long time.
Well, let's do it.
I've been going through a lot of personal stuff. The loss of my father, recently the loss of my Kelly girl. I still have Greta.
Mhm.
Um, just a lot of stuff. And between that and the dyslexia, I understand that time and space will conspire for me at that moment. But one of the things I've been on the verge of is yeah, expanding like the Google business and starting my, a YouTube channel where I'd love to talk about so many things just from the Akashic view. I'd also like to start with a foundational thing like what I explaining who are the masters and teachers, what are the Akashic records, what are the benefits of having a consultation, and so on and so forth, just so people can get a better idea. Um, I just feel like there's a few more things that are I have an opportunity to move through before actually launching that. So
I'm excited about you even thinking about doing that.
I
That's
for
teaching.
sure.
Yeah, that's teaching without having to be there for 3 weeks, but you
I,
get a whole lot in say 15 minutes.
yeah, I have a
You
list
know,
of
for 30.
people, clients that are waiting for me. I am going to be teaching people how to access their records at some point very soon. Um, I'm kind of in the beginnings of the teacher training because I don't want to divert from the methodology I utilize because it always, works for me. Um, but I am definitely going to be putting this podcast on my website. And so people who,
After we put it up on ours first.
oh, of
So,
course,
so it'll be a little while before she does that. But
all in due time. Yeah,
yeah,
all
but
in
um, by all means, because um, yes, I want very much for you to share that. And we
Mhm.
try to drop new podcast every Friday. And excuse me. So on Fridays, you usually that's the goal every week, just to drop a new one. But so it may be a month before we drop yours. I don't know how fast they'll work, but it once you do, I
Mhm.
share it with your universe by absolutely.
And thank
Absolutely.
you so much for your inspiration. I actually have a domain name called Collaborsations, which I'm hoping, yeah, it can be where people call in and um, yeah, that like people like you and I are talking, and then someone calls in and goes, "Hey, wait a minute, what we all, and then so we respond to that, and that's where I think the true creative process happens is when two people are just talking,
Hmm.
and it just,
That's what I wanted for this podcast. I didn't want it to be interviews. I
yeah,
wanted to
well,
be
I love,
conversation.
love it. I love your podcast, and
Thank
and you're just I love you, Elaine. You're so amazing. I'm so grateful you chose life at the same time frames I chose life and that we got to meet each other and work together. And I'm honored and grateful to have.
Well, thank you for taking the time, because I know you're busy. I know you're busy ladies, so thank you very much. Folks, I want to encourage you to look at her book list. It's probably not real easy reading for
Oh no,
everybody, but
super.
interesting.
Yeah, just some references Laura Lynn referred me to that will help you understand a little bit more about the Akashic Records and yeah.
It's Laura Lynn, Lauralyn, public, if you're taking notes. And the last name is Bunn.
Yeah.
So, and then there's Carolyn Miss. I always say that, Myss. It's called Sacred Contracts. And because Mia, she's sharing this, she's typed this out, so I feel like I can say it out loud. Because she is very dyslexic, she chose to listen to the CD. And Rupert, Rupert, Sheldrake, morphic resonance. I'm going to have to read that one.
Yeah. Another one too, if you just go on YouTube, it's more of a look on YouTube and watch him and listen. He's a scientist that steps outside of the box, and I just love him because he brings it into the norm. You know, I thought about writing a book. Is it really that woo-woo anyway? Because like it's an innate part of all of us, you know, and some people are like, ooh, I don't want to access my records because if I'm afraid what I'll find, or I don't want to get a reading because, and it's so way beyond, it's so much more of a healing process and awakening. So yeah, and so watching Rupert Sheldrake, a scientist, talk about morphic resonance, and then the one called a universal consciousness question mark, that one I think, you know, if you want to start with that, so I think it's about maybe an hour long, or it's
That's
just
not bad.
fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh, we've got to get this in here, just in case, public, you didn't read the whole thing. What free gift or invitation would you like to offer, or what website would you like Elaine Ireland to tell our listeners to visit? In appreciation, Mia is saying this to you, public. In appreciation of your interest and support of this work and for listening to us, she would like to offer you 25% off the fee for your initial 45, 60, or 90-minute Akashic reading consultation, reading or guided meditation. Remember, there's an or in there, folks. Feel free to contact her through her website, contract form.
Contact form.
Yeah. And it says, please mention that you found me through Conversation with the Ancients and Elaine Ireland. Mia, MIALOWEREE.com. I would also, meaning her, like to invite you to attend any one of the fairs or expos where I am speaking about the Akashic Records. Listen in, ask questions you may have. You can find these events on her events page and the Austin Alchemist. Austin Alchemist is a computer based. It's not a written form that's published, but the Austin Alchemist has some wonderful references and let you know what's going on in certain areas, headed up by Julia.
Chambers.
Thank you. I've only known the woman 30 years.
I know. You can only, but there's so much, I know, like Elaine, there's so much going on in your consciousness and your mind and your body and your, I don't know how you do it. Like you are so amazing. Let it
Mike teases,
go.
I can't complain about anything that happens because Mike will turn around and say, honey, you created it. It's your fault.
For
But
your
I like
benefit. You created it. At some point, you realize the benefit.
yep. I love the benefit, and I love being able to work with people like you. And, some of the people I have on here I've known forever. And, when you start a project, you try to start close to home and then branch out. And every now and then I'll have someone on that I've known from the fairs, but that's the only time I know them. They're not part of my immediate circle, and it's always fun to have them on to get to know them better. So I end up being part of the public, which is really fun to be a part of too. So I can say we've had a lot of really cool conversations, whether it was over spaghetti or across the aisle, so to speak, And now today we did a really, I think, important service for the public. So they will be more interested in digging in a little bit more to the Akashic. And I see Mia as someone who takes a very science-based as well as metaphysical-based, logic-based approach to the Akashic, which I really, really appreciate. So maybe it's how I see you doing it. You're a very intelligent woman, and you're a very gifted metaphysician, and you found a way to mix it with this topic, and not everybody does.
Well, I
So
so appreciate you. I believe we all have a very innate connection to source, and it's my honor to help assist people in claiming that. And I just want to say before we sign off here, how grateful I am for you, not just to be on this podcast, but for you in this community, and you holding the space and being that light in the lighthouse. So many. And, you know, yeah, holding the space, lighting the way. I'll never ever forget sitting at that table and looking across and seeing your smile at me.
I wasn't even supposed to be there that day.
Oh my
So I met two people that day that, let me rephrase that. I wasn't supposed to be in that space of the fair. That was something new that Nature's Treasure had created, and I didn't know. I was supposed to be the reader, one of the readers in Nature's Treasures on that day, but they had decided to combine their readers with the producer of that fair, which is once a month. And when I
Mhm.
walked in and they told me I was going in, I went, but I didn't pay a fee to be in that fair. We'd never done that before. And so I really wasn't supposed to be there, but yet I was.
Yeah.
And I
But
was just simply supposed to be there to meet the people that I met and have the fun I had that day and meet the public that I had interaction with. I wouldn't change it for the world.
yeah.
But there were three of you sitting across from me that were all newbies. That
Mm,
was your first times, an artist and you and a reader. Uh, seems like she had something else on her table. I can't remember. And I was watching y'all in exchange and have fun. And I thought, now that's what it's about. That's what these fairs are supposed to be about. Getting to
yeah.
know people, taking somebody's hand and saying, yeah, you can do this. You can do
Yeah.
this. If you
Well,
couldn't, you wouldn't have been
first,
led to be here.
yeah, the universe aligned. This is a perfect example of the past, present, and future, and free will choice, and things written in stone or not written in stone. Universe aligned it, gave you an offer. Your free will choice said, yes, I will do this.
Mm.
And lo and behold, I'm sure you weren't just holding the space for me, but everyone there. So thank you. Thank
The other two ladies I have not seen again. I've
you.
never seen them at any of the fairs. That's not to say they haven't been, because that's not a fair that I would normally do,
Mhm. Yeah.
mostly because of scheduling. But it still occurs once a month at Nature's Treasures. I think the first Saturday. Is that when it's there?
Yes, it's now called the Austin Metaphysical and Holistic Fair. Cheryl Martin with Heaven Pathways Earth. Marilyn Wagner is still doing the expo 4 times a
Yeah,
year. And then
spiritual
coming
life
up,
production.
yeah, coming up is the Odessa, the Midland Fair in October.
Looks like I'm going to be there.
I think I may be too.
Yeah, I haven't been in years, and it's just time. It's time to go say hello to those folks. I finally feel like I can travel a little bit, so I'll go, because I used to travel a lot, but anyway, another day. But know that she will be there. So go to her website, check her schedule, see what she's up to, Miss Mia, and
Mm,
and remember, beyond this podcast, every month you can go check what people are doing. Folks,
yes.
we would love for you to do that, not just this month and beyond the end of the year. Keep in mind, public, that January is often a very busy time for readers of all kinds. So check your local area, wherever you might live. See who might be in your own backyard that can be of service and you might like to get to know. And a lot of people like Mia and others do a lot of work by phone, by Zoom, by whatever other method is out there or will be out there in the future. So keep that in mind too, public. Yeah, you can reach just about anybody internationally these days. So take advantage of it. We are going to have to close it down, and I cannot thank you enough, Mia Loweree.
Thank you, Elaine
Akashic
Ireland.
Record people. Thank you, people, for being on her side and doing the work that you do to help get the information out to the clients. Thank you so much. We're gonna wrap it up with a lot of gratitude, and until we meet again, which hopefully won't be too long. We'll be at the fair. The next
we'll
fair
kick it
in Austin. Yeah, we'll play around then, and enjoy each other's company, and we'll just grow together, girl. So public, join us as we're on our journey. Come be on your journey as well. And thank you for being with us, public. Thank you, Mia. I'm going to hit the end button, girlfriend. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Conversations with the Ancients, where we take you on a journey where you'll hear voices of metaphysicians from the past, as well as today's spirit mediums, healers, and others who show you a side of the paranormal you've never seen before. Remember to visit our website at conversationswiththeancients.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on Conversations with the Ancients.